many men don't want to sit in silence with themselves and ask themselves the question, who am I? Because what if I come up with nothing? What if there's nothing inside of me? What do I do next? Now I need to drink. Now I need to smoke. Now I need to be high constantly. I can't just live with that. Many men are violent. Many men do horrible things to women, to children, to each other. But there's also a whole lot of men who are quiet. There's also a whole lot of men who don't say much, who don't seem to show up, who we don't know. Are you reliable? Are you doing something? Where are you? Are we seeing those men? And we need men in responsible positions to demonstrate what is it to find a way to work on your breaking, to find a way to work on your discomfort, to find a way to work on your shame, the things you've done to your partner that you wish you didn't, the awkward relationship between you and your children, the awkward relationship you have with yourself.
These lights in here are making me look pretty, like I've got makeup on. My guest is Dr. Baba Buntu. He's a sincere and dear brother. So before we go live, let's greet. They're on TikTok, man.
Greetings, TikTok family. I am very honored to be in studio with Brother Nicolas Regisford and at the Homegrown Radio. It's very special to be here. I have a story with everyone in the room, a story that is still unfolding and taking new turns as we go. But more than anything, I'm happy to be here because I love intentionality. And if you love being intentional about what you do, stick around. You might be inspired to think about certain things or rethink certain things or even disagree. That is absolutely allowed and encouraged. I hate sitting in echo chambers where everybody just agrees and say the same thing. We need to learn to be in spaces where we also disagree and have different views and different ways of thinking about the world constructively and for solutions. And that's what I try to do. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree, and both are deeply appreciated.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
Yeah. So go live now. We're going live now. All right, go live. Authentic peace, find it. I'm sitting in a space where I'm comfortable. How are you feeling?
I'm also very comfortable.
First time here,
and it's really great to see that you have such a facility. I was not aware of this, so I'm really impressed and glad. I believe in homegrown radio.
Wow. It's a extension of us being farmers. We got to accept what we are. So that significant investment in land and what we're doing on homegrown farm is farming.
Yeah.
So coming out of that mindset, selling food, using your own ingredients, it's part of that.
Yeah.
The freshness and the uniqueness. And also creating products that change our health and our mental state. Important as well. So talking is healing, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a conflict between this talking and healing space that we're in. And it's a pleasure to be here, just to be able to put it all together. I saw this space and said, let's chop it in half to make it a studio meets our food place. And I think it's a concept that even if people were sitting over there enjoying their food, we could be doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Do you understand what I mean? And it's just like sometimes that's where the vision goes to.
So I listened to a song called More Than Able. And in that song, there's a line that says anything is possible. So that's where I'm gravitating.
Yeah.
And we don't broadcast it. I think just about everybody that comes here says, I didn't know you had this.
Sure.
I'm like, well, I'm past the days of talking.
But I love the combination with land. I think land is something that we have spoken about for a long time, the importance of it, our relation to it, our disconnect with it.
Yeah.
And for the fact that you are combining a podcast with owning and producing on land, I think that's in itself really, really, really meaningful. Because I think for many of us, especially those who didn't grow up farming directly, that disconnect is quite deep. And I've spoken to a lot of young people who are very clear that the land belongs to us. It must be returned. You must take it back and all of that. But when you give them a spade and a piece of land and you say, let's work, after 20 minutes, oh,
Right.
I didn't know it was this hard.
On tight.
So that connection,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Getting in the mix with you is effortless. We have known each other for over a decade, approaching 2 decades. I want to say 2 decades, but I could be accurate by saying a decade and 3/4.
Yeah. That's
from making music to teaching and educating, traveling the world, speaking, writing, researching, getting a doctorate, a PhD, raising a family, acquiring land. Some of your journey, and it's not a polished bio that I'm doing. I'm recapping what I know, but we live in an interesting space and time where we're both black men, and we are, even though we spell African different, we are in the same group. And that group, whether you're in America or in Africa or in Europe, black men are labeled, and there's different levels of, reception that black men get. And there's different ways in which black men choose to vibrate. But we cannot be ignored. We are a force to be reckoned with. We are the fastest runners in the world. And we're some of the biggest thinkers in the world. We are some of the most creative people in the world. We are some of the most dynamic leaders in the world and storytellers. And we've got a lot more to be proud of. However, today in 2025, and that's as much as I'll say, I'm not proud of black men. And I get to this point because of, I think, a lot of careless behavior and a lack or a non-desire, or people who are not focused on building our brand to be credible and to be spoken about better in rooms that we're not in. Yesterday, I watched a video on this platform, on this TikTok platform, where the gentleman was like, "I'm sorry, woman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We are sorry. We are sorry." Very beautiful English and all that. "I'm sorry, you are now going to be accepted in the boardrooms, and on behalf of all of us." And it's a lot to deal with, because first of all, is the guy genuine? I'm like, sorry on behalf of, sorry on the video? Okay, all right, cool. But I watched the whole thing because someone sent it to me. And because someone sent it to me, I was like, okay, you've curated this for me. So let me understand if I can connect with why you're sending it. And then where it was sent, it was in a group of women who are basically activists. And some of them said, "You're forgiven." And others had different signs and emojis on it. So this is the topic, man. Manhood, masculinity. And today, in the middle of 2020, the decade that started with 2020, when we started with the world telling us to stay indoors and strip ourselves of connection and so on, we've had a closer focus on mental health, and we've had a closer focus on wellness in general. And we've had some scandal, man. We've had Black Lives Matter. We've had no more this, no more that, and campaigning and cancel culture.
That's been
and we've had a lot, yeah. So the big one about gender-based violence is called what? It's no.
Me too.
Me too. Thank you, Toby. We've had Me Too. So behind all of this is an expression that is a message to the world. While students are campaigning in East Africa to say, keep the cost of living like reasonable. Like we're not trying to change your life, but we're gonna protest and say like, stop putting taxes on everything, and we're gonna burn down buildings. We're gonna be rebellious and all that. So you are standing up, defending the black man, and you've been defending the black man, Dr. Baba Buntu, from however long. Why do you defend the black man today with so many reasons to not defend what is going on and what is just unbelievably implausible, if that's a word? Why do you defend us? And why are you doing this work in us? Like, why?
No, thank you so much for the leading up to the question and also the question itself. I think I might want to change defend to support, and not because defend doesn't belong in the sentence, but I think it's more about support. And the reason I believe that black men are great is because I've seen so many men change.
Yeah.
And let me also say first that I agree with you when you say that there's many things that men do, that black men do, that makes you not so proud and that makes you quite disillusioned about who are we in this world. I agree with that. But I think I've also taken time to look into some of the reasons that I think keep reproducing broken men, keep reproducing men who do things they say they would never do. Like we have a lot of men who say that they will never violate, they will never destroy, they will never break, they will never invade. But we do. And I have seen so many men change from being part of families and environments that have given completely up on them. But because they get into a space where they are seen, where they are expected from, where they find a live nerve that I think many men are about to lose for different reasons. And some of those reasons sits outside. And my point, so let me take your question the way you said it. Why do I defend black men? Because I also do that. But I don't want to exonerate black men from taking responsibility. I don't think that so a lot of what I talk about is our historical wounds, our trauma from history, from enslavement, from colonialism. And many people will say, but that's far back. You can't go that back, go that far back to trace the origin of something that is happening right now. I definitely believe we can and must, to understand why certain things are happening. We say that hurt people, and when we have a long history of being marginalized, being violated, being stolen from, being ripped apart in many ways in our life essence, there's a strong probability that we will also engage in some of those behaviors, even when we say we will not want to do that. Because that's how psychology works. That's how also a twisted and uprooted and disconnected soul works. But I'm not saying that that makes it fine. So we just have to blame history and just say we have had a very bad journey. So that's why we do these things. I want us to take responsibility. And I think that through the work that I've done, especially as a counselor, I've done a lot of programs, I've done research, I've done work in many different parts of both South Africa and the African continent, and even in the African diaspora. I think I see a commonality. A lot of African men, their experience is, and you can argue all you want to say, but I think you're making this up. Or say, be that as it may, especially when you see it from outside, a lot of African men would say that they feel that they are not seen as important. They are not sure if they're important even within themselves. So there's a lack of confidence in many African men. And when we then live in a society that often gives men a blanket response that, oh, another black man, or black men are like this. And there's about 5,000 stereotypes that we fit into. There's something that almost takes away the ground you are standing on when you hear that repeatedly. And at one point, a number of men feel like, you know what, whether I do good or don't do good, it's the same. So why should I try to be so nice? Why should I try to man up and be responsible when I don't get a job, I don't get an income, I'm not respected, I'm not seen as an interesting person? It doesn't seem like this world really needs me. So let me just get what is mine then. Let me just take what is mine and ship out, because it doesn't seem like it's going to give me any fair deals. And we can all disagree with that and say that that's not really a rational way of looking at the world. But I'm just saying, I'm listening to men in different parts of the world whose experience is like that. And I think rather than just criticizing it, just trying to tell men that you are wrong and you are sitting within your ego and you are just influenced by patriarchy, which many of us definitely are, I think we also need to listen. We also need to take a step back and say that, why is it that, yes, so we know that many men are violent, many men do horrible things to women, to children, to each other, but there's also a whole lot of men who are quiet. There's also a whole lot of men who don't say much, who don't seem to show up, who we don't know. Are you reliable? Are you doing something? Where are you? Are we seeing those men? Are we having conversations with those men? Are we having conversations with men in general? I always say this to especially my own age group as a seasoned person. Many of my age group would look at young men smoking or drinking on the corner with disdain and just say, how can you even think that you're going to have a life just standing here smoking? Don't you understand? You're just wasting your life. Which is, in one way, is true. You're not going to get a job standing there. You're not going to be able to start a company standing there smoking. But why can't we ask, why are you doing that? Out of all the choices you probably could have made, why is this the choice? And when you then walk up to this group of men who probably will be super shocked that you're even having a conversation, because they're used to men my age just saying nasty things to them. So when the first layer would probably be skepticism. Why you even talk to us? What do you mean? We're going to have to defend us because you're probably going to try to trap us into a conversation and make us look stupid. So we're going to defend ourselves. But when they at one point hopefully get to understand that I'm actually interested in knowing you, I'm actually interested to understand your thoughts, your experience in this world. And I have done that with many young men who did not expect me to have that intention. And there's a layer of resistance that often falls down when that connection is made. And what that teaches me is, and I'm a man who also have had that experience growing up, that I don't think I'm going to make it in this world. I don't think that I have something that this world really needs. So that insecurity is something I can recognize in my earlier life. And I didn't have anyone who wanted to understand my world. So I'm trying to also be that person who's trying to understand your world, whether I agree with it or don't agree with it. But what is your story? Where do you come from? Where are you trying to go? Do you have some clues about what you want to do? And when that conversation unfolds and a trust relationship is opened, a lot of men then start to peel back the layers of why they look so lost, why they appear to be so disinterested, why they are so bored, why they're smoking so much, why they're standing on the corner every day. Because that seems to be one place they can experience a form of acceptance. So I feel that, and I'm not saying that's without reason, that we also have a society where many, especially our sisters, have a front against men because we appear to be very unsafe for women. And I absolutely understand that. I absolutely understand that. So many women have been hurt by us. So many women have been violated by us. And many of us, even those of us who didn't violate, we laughed at the story. We knew what was happening next door and we did nothing. So women have seen that and experienced that, and have also seen that even if you come at me with a charming smile, and even if you promise me all kinds of things, I should have my red flag signs up early. I should not give you a chance to twist my understanding and my romantic interest in you into a certain corner that I can't escape. And we need to sit on the other side of that story and also understand that we need to own. We don't, so let me say, many of us, I think, but I'm not violent. I've never done anything to a woman. I don't put my hand on a woman. But a woman cannot know that. There isn't any way that I can make a woman believe that that's the man I am. So I can also not just be upset when a woman react to me with disdain or skepticism and saying that you're probably just like the rest of them. And now I'm upset. Oh, you can't say that. Are you taking all the women, men under one? Like you can't brush with one big stroke. You can't just do that. No, women needs to do that. And I think this is a thing that I always want us as men, especially as African men, to think about. If you were born and raised as an African woman, what would you have done experiencing men the way that most of our women experience us today? Because you say that, no, women should give up their numbers when you ask. They should answer when you whistle. They should come walk next to you when you say, come, baby. Would you have done that? Would that be a safe move? And if you can think about that, I think you know what you would have done. You wouldn't have given out your number. You wouldn't have just answered every cat call that is coming towards you. You wouldn't have done that. So you don't have the right to then put that woman down who says, I don't think I want to have a conversation with you. It's, but you see, you are ugly. Look at you. I'm trying to even have a conversation with you. You are nothing. And try to make that woman feel like she's absolutely nothing. What you are exposing in that moment as a man is maybe that raw nerve of thinking, maybe I'm nothing. Can't get a job. Can't get an income. I don't have material assets that makes me impressive. Now a woman also doesn't want to even have a conversation with me. Probably I'm nothing. So I'm taking a long route to answer why do I defend that? I defend that because I think many of us as men appear in this world the way I described now, not because we are useless, not because we don't have the ability, but something has happened for so many times and through so many generations that we have even lost hope that we can generate that within ourselves. So as a society, and I think that just as women have done, this is important to understand women's empowerment, because many men are complaining, but you see, women now, they get jobs. We are the ones who are suffering now. No, there's been a little bit of improvement for women, and let's call it a little bit. It's not like it's massive. There's been some improvement for women because they've done the hard work and they've stood on the shoulders of those who went before them, and they've clubbed together as women and said, there's no way we're going to accept not getting paid the same salaries for the same job. There's no way we're going to accept having some of our daughters getting married when they are 12 in certain countries. Like, we're not going to accept that. So we're going to stand up for it, whether I am directly affected by it or not. As men, we don't do that. As men, we don't do that. When you want to fight your battle, you are on your own. We are not there when we get divorced. There's no one to turn to. When we lose a significant person in our lives, there's no one we can go to. When we lose all our investments, we are just ashamed. And we go back to that room of shame all the time. So to many of us, masculinity appears to be a form of performance. And that the games, so the rules of the game is that I must play a convincing performance. I must make you believe that I'm a man. So I learn a certain way to talk. I learn a certain way to sit. I learn a certain way to call a woman and talk to a woman. And in most instances, it seems to work. Because there are a number of women who also respond to that type of caricature and that performance. And we even if that's not us, we keep peeping and say, this is why, because this is how I must behave, I must talk, this is how and it looks powerful. But within that power performance, it could be the most empty man, the most lonely man, the most desperate man, even if there's so much adoration for this man. So it seems to many of us that if I was going to be real, if I was going to talk about what I really think, I'd probably be seen as the lowest of the lowest. So I can't do that. Whatever I do, I mustn't be honest. I mustn't talk about what's really going on. I mustn't be honest about the instabilities in my mind and emotion at times. I must play the performance. I must make sure that it's convincible. And I must make sure that I never crack. I never fall apart. So masculinity is, the standard of masculine performance sits very high. And I think as a society, we seem to agree, because even if we say that, patriarchy is wrong and it's something that was imposed on us from Western sources, and which I definitely believe. I believe that we have a very different gender dynamic script in Africa in ancient times, but we're not living in ancient times right now. And we have internalized the pain, the oppression, and we have become part of the oppressor in how we act out these disconnections. And that is something I want us to take responsibility for. I'm not going to take responsibility for colonialism and for what was forced on us, but I'm going to take responsibility of how that sits with me and how I may reenact it.
Just give a straight up heartfelt message to the brother that we want to reach, who's feeling like, man, I'm not worthy in this world. Just share what's on your heart direct to this camp.
So, brother, I want to say something to you. And I think I want to start it with my own journey. I think that many of us as Black men, we feel we don't really have a footprint in this world. We feel that there's very little that is expected from us. And we feel that even when we try, there are very few who notice us or need us or make us feel we stand out in a positive way. When you have lost confidence in yourself and your ability, you also need to understand that there's something that benefits from that, and you're feeding that something. What is that something? I think we live within power systems that thrives on people's weakness and tendency to conform and tendency to not speak up about real issues. There are many systems of power in this world that benefit from people who don't really speak up, speak back, or have their own voices. So when you allow, and I want to emphasize allow, your story may be phrased around how you are a victim, how people made you this, and how nobody did anything for you. And I'm not saying that is not true. But you also need to own how you sit with that story and what you know about it. Because I know from my own story, from the stories of so many men around me, that it's possible to rebuild yourself. And I think, to be honest, especially as African men, it is our duty to rebuild ourselves. It might feel unfair. It might feel that, but I should be seen as a human being from get. I completely agree. But when you know that that's not really the reality we live with, you need to do something about what you know about that. And you can rebuild yourself. You can study your history, understanding that you stand on the shoulders of giants. So you don't have the right to really feel that you are from a people who haven't produced anything. You cannot be ashamed of where you come from as a race or as a people. You may be ashamed about certain things that you have done or not done, but then change that shame into intention of change. Do you want to remain in that dark and difficult hole, or do you want to build a door? Because it is possible to build a door. It might not feel possible, but I can tell you that it is. You might need some support from a friend or from a father figure or from a coach. And if you know that, then seek that. Seek men, study men who do great things. Study men, don't study men because they are rich and because they have 5 cars and because they go on holiday all over the world every month. Study men who are intentional, who work hard. Study the ethics. Study the sacrifices. Ask them what time they get up in the morning. Ask them how do they compose themselves in a world that is also mounted against them. It's not only you. But for some reason, they have found or built, they've built a certain core within themselves that they're going to live up to, an expectation from within. I want to say this, especially to those of us who were raised without our fathers. I think many of us develop a default explanation and say, yeah, I always thought I should do this, but I'm fatherless. I didn't know my father. And it is a sad story to not be raised by a father. Absolutely. And no child should be raised without a father. That is not okay at all. But when that is your story, and I like to say it this way, you can be angry when you are 10. You can be angry when you're 14. You can be angry when you're 16. But now you need to start looking forward. Is all I'm going to do in this life be angry about what was not done for me? As much as it's justified that you can be angry about that, now you know what is going to change with how you focus yourself towards your future, because now you understand that the Father that was not there has to come through you. And it is unfair. It's not supposed to be that way. Our culture doesn't even agree that it should be that way. But you need to make a decision that you're going to be that father. You're going to hold yourself to a higher standard. You're going to expect discipline from yourself even when no one around you does. You're going to tell yourself that I'm going to go out, seek opportunities, create opportunities, find other people that I can create relationships with who seem to be doing things for themselves that I also want to learn how to do for myself. And that's a choice you need to make. And like I said, I understand that it feels unfair. I understand that you were not really in an ideal world supposed to do that. But none of us live in an ideal world. Not one of us. So make a choice for you, because there's plenty of spaces that will continue to benefit from you continuing, doubting yourself, victimizing yourself, and saying, I can't do better. Actually, you might even experience that the time you stand up and say, you know what, maybe I can do something. Maybe I can become something. Maybe I'm not defined by my history. Even your friends could have a problem with that. Oh, you're starting to act big. Wow, you're the president now, huh? Because it's something, even within us as men, when one of our friends is going to improve themselves, it's like, wait, no, let's pull him down. Let's discourage him. Let's not do this, because if he can improve, I'm losing my story of a victim. If you can become better, how can I claim that I can't do better? So we need to change our mindset. We need to change our behavior in line with that mindset. And I know that it's possible. And I want you to believe that that is something that exists within you and that it might take you time. I'm not saying you can do this overnight, but you can and you must. And as a society, as a continent, we want you to do this because we benefit from you finding your power.
Toby, you want to contribute? What do you feel at the moment? How do you feel?
I'm gonna choose my words correctly. I feel something that's necessary is happening right now. One thing that Baba Buntu said is that women have, no matter what you can say or what you want about them, is that they're always in a club together and stand against an issue that they don't feel is right towards them, or whatever it is, bad or good. As guys, we don't have that same thing. So it's always this warrior mentality, which is good and well, right, in some aspects. But we don't have this sense of togetherness. If we're gonna fail, let's fail together and let's pick up the pieces together. It's always embarrassment of, for example, if you lose, we break up in a relationship, or because we laugh at each other. If that happens, we laugh at each other when we make mistakes. It's always a joke. And I think that's maybe our way of coping with it, because really when we're laughing, it's how else do we take care of it? And it's always, no, just toughen up and let's just, just go ahead with it. But then it's like, oh, I pretend in front of my friends that we're cool with it. But when we're alone and it's just you and your thoughts, or you and God, or whatever it is, right? It's difficult to face yourselves. And when we're alone, I think we're having a conversation with Masonobe, where it's difficult. People don't actually be alone and be with their thoughts. Because then even if you go to your room or whatever it is, your place of shame, like you said, it's either we're listening to music, which is noise in our ears. It's either we eating a lot, or we're doing something that disrupts that silent voice, that thought that we need to talk to. And when we talk to that voice, a lot of things we discover, but we don't like, but it's true. And when it's true, that's where we can find, okay, I think I'm sick and tired of this. Let me try and change it. Right? So yeah, that's what I'm getting from this conversation.
How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel liberated.
Okay.
Yeah, in the conversation.
I think liberating is part of the work from your things that are trapping you and that are holding you hostage. And I think, starting this conversation with why do you defend? It's a beautiful position to say, next, I'd like to know, if I interact with you and I trust you and I open up to you, what am I going to learn? Why would I want to learn from Dr. Baba Buntu? Like, what can he teach? So what's your spectrum of offering? Questions coming. Yeah, I see.
Maybe let me start by saying that I don't teach people masculinity as such. I don't teach you to be a good man. What I do, I'm saying it the way I think many men experience it. I confront you. When we start our conversation and say, I've tried 1, 2, 3 and it doesn't work, I will come at that and not just say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's terrible. I might say that out of sympathy, and I understand that this was difficult, but my next question will be, so where do you want to go? What have you tried? How far do you think you can actually go? Do you think this is something that intrinsically you cannot do anything about? Or because I want to understand, what is your energy? What is your expectation to self? And that could be a very uncomfortable question for somebody who would like to say that, no, I'm not the problem, my wife is the problem, or the problem is that I wasn't raised by parents who love me. That's the problem. Focus on them. Let's sit together and put them down. And then I'm coming to you and say, what are you doing about that? And that might be an uncomfortable conversation to start with. But what I'm trying to make you do is to understand and go inside yourself. Tumani was just saying, many men don't want to sit in silence with themselves and ask themselves a question, who am I? Because what if I come up with nothing? What if there's nothing inside of me? What do I do next? Now I need to drink. Now I need to smoke. Now I need to be high constantly. I can't just live with that. So I want you to be more comfortable to go into the vulnerable space. And that's a space most of us don't want to go. And I think I want to assure you, because I will also read your body language. I will look at how you respond to what I'm saying, because all men are different. So I don't just have one box that I'm going to put you into. But I want to walk with you. And if I see that you are scared of going there, then let's work on the fear. If I understand that you are excusing and apologetic and you don't want to, you want to find excuses, then let's work on that. So whatever I identify that is the block in your life, that's the one part I want us to zone in on. Why is this a block in your life? Why can't you do this? And what happens in that space, let me be very honest, for many men, when they finally find the courage, and I think that's why it's important to work with another person, because sometimes you don't find the courage within yourself. So to hear someone else saying that, I believe you can do it. What? Yes, you can do it. Go. And you open up that door that you told yourself, I'm never going to open this door. That becomes very emotionally charged for a lot of men. Some break down, and you know how ashamed we feel when we cry, because we're not supposed to cry. Even if we say, yeah, no, men can also cry. Yeah, in a funeral, that's when we can cry. Or maybe when our wife leaves us after 25 beautiful years, then it's okay to cry. But normally it's not okay to cry for men. Even women don't find it okay to be with men who cry. Let's be honest. I'm not saying it's not okay, but I'm just saying that's how we experience it. So now you're crying in the room with another man. That feels double shamed, because now you feel that you are announcing that I'm really not a man. I'm breaking apart. And my job in that situation is to validate how much of a breakthrough this is, and how the tears that are coming are the relief of you finally allowing yourself to be you and acknowledge the journey that you have walked. And when we've gotten into that space, then, of course, depending on what your story is, we will stay for a while in that space, understand what it is. I think the information is available to us. So men say, for instance, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't stay in relationship. I cheat all the time. What should I do? You think there's a magic? Like, are you expecting me to prescribe your medicine so that you don't cheat? Is that what are you saying? Because the simple answer is you just don't cheat. But of course, the answer or the problem is much more complex than that. But you might find some answers in that you gravitate to seeking relationships all the time because you need validation, because you can't find the validation in yourself. So you're using another person, you're using a woman to make you feel validated, because there's something very powerful in attraction. It's something very powerful to be seen as desirable, especially as African men who often don't feel desired. And I'm not only talking in the romantic space, but desired or needed.
Yeah.
So to have another person investing energy in you and missing you and wanting you and lusting for you, that's a very powerful experience. And you can get hooked on that feeling. And you get addicted to that, but you don't know how to be in a relationship. You don't know how to have honest conversations. You don't know how to be kind to another person more than 1 week. And that's your problem. But you might come to me and say, women are very problematic. I can't be in relationship with them. No, and you can't be in a relationship. Women shouldn't be in a relationship with you because you are not ready. Let's work on you. And that's the best asset you have for almost every problem. You.
I like how you say confront, like you go in and you confront the stuff you're afraid of addressing. I saw a question from the floor because, every time we speak, there's going to be people that want to chip in and ask questions. We're talking with Dr. Baba Buntu, who is an expert on men, African men in particular. But I think men all across the world have some similarities that we can pull in from this conversation. We started with why he defends men, because I'm ashamed of men, and I'm ashamed to be a black man, and I'm ashamed of the behavior of men in leadership. I'm ashamed of the disgrace of how we treat ourselves. I'm ashamed of the lack of care for our bodies and our minds. And I am ashamed of quite a lot of how we consider a way to treat women, meaning that in a conversation recently, some gentleman my age just said, I don't want that. I want to be promiscuous. I'm like, okay. And I just don't have the headspace to unpack that type of thinking. Like, I like to talk about how we can create a better society for those people who don't know us. So it's okay. I can still send you a WhatsApp. It's all right. I'm not going to disown anybody. But you fall into a category of low bandwidth for me. When you put up your hand at your age, when you're in your prime, when you've learned so much and you've traveled so much and you've bought a house by the ocean or whatever it is, or you're succeeding. The other end of the stick is that Walter and Nkosi and Marlon are living with pretty much close to giving up and no hope. So while there's a desire to be things that you think will give you short-term highs, what are you doing for the long term? And what are you building into the future? So I'm always inspired and intrigued to work with minds like Dr. Baba Buntu. And I've asked him to share what we will learn from being with him. And he says, I'll confront the stuff that you're afraid to confront and walk with you, which is a start to a beautiful journey, because we need help to understand that crying is healthy. Let me repeat it. Crying is healthy. Do the science. Go to whatever artificial intelligence platform you're using and type in, what are the benefits of crying for a human being? And see if there's a consistency across the different platforms that you may use. You can use that as a conversation and some research that you can find to help you walk away from some of the things that you were taught in the streets where you grew up. where crying was a direct result of you not being masculine. We've learned on this platform that we are a combination of male and female energy. That doesn't mean that we are men inside women and women inside men. That means that we're a balance. And we get this knowledge later than we need it in life. So because we've got access to information now, let's use the access to information now to upskill ourselves and to learn more so that we could be better representatives of who we are for generations in the future of people that we don't know but may come across this video or this recording.
Yeah, a picture from the manager, but a question from the director.
Hi, Dr. Baba Buntu. I would like to ask a question. Okay, from my observation, like, black men have been creators of magnificent sculptures, of buildings, of great monuments throughout history. It's not like women, drugs, alcohol, and other distractions were not there. But it seems like today men are more distracted. And when men, especially the black man, when one black man says to the other black man, hey, come, let's build something, then the other three scratch their heads. Or they build something and along the way, they skewer off to other directions. And then there's one left or two late. And then not much is done. And that construction dies off somewhere. What do you think is needed to glue the black men together to create a world of their own? Because black men, black people, black men and women are naturally good people.
Absolutely.
And goodness is the only thing that we can create, honestly speaking, because we love peace, we love enjoyment. The world knows this. So, but I need to know from you, from your expertise, like, what is needed for black men to come together, like the Chinese people are coming together, and Indians are coming together to build something of value that will transcend time. Yeah, that's my question.
It's a marvelous question, man. Yeah, what's needed?
Thank you so much for the question. And I think there's something that you said. You said black women, black men are good, and I would say powerful. And I think you said something that the world knows that. And for me, that sentence and that statement is quite significant. Why has Africa been torn so much apart if it is a useless continent? Why has so much been invested in destroying and owning and destabilizing a continent that stereotypically is seen as useless, waste, just a waste, nothing? The forces that have orchestrated these power dynamics normally don't engage a lot with things that are useless. They don't. They just toss it away and they don't pay it any mind. They pay a lot of mind to Africa. And I'm trying to say that this is also the mindset and the psychology behind what we can refer to as colonialism, as enslavement, as this sucking dry of the resources of the continent, and many other ways. Within that, you are asking the question about men. And I want us to look at the broader picture, but come back to the men, because men are also part of that story, and we have been affected particularly about that. There's something that colonialism and apartheid specifically did to African men, and it's called infantilization. Infantilization is a process where you make somebody believe they are a much more immature person than they actually can be. So you begin to relate to yourself as a incomplete human being, and in this instance, somebody who's immature, somebody who could not grow to a certain intellectual capacity, a certain growth capacity. What you may think that you can do is to copy someone else and become a replica of somebody, but you don't believe that you can actually, from within yourself, become a full-grown human being. So you stay often in a psychology of the infantile self, the immature self. And we have, over generations as African men, kind of gotten used to the infantile African man who's not responsible, who's one of his biggest problems is he doesn't know how to keep his zip up. I'm saying it's in a silly way, but some men would say, I have 16 children. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened? You really don't know what happened. And we as a community, we're not going to ask questions. We're going to just think of you as a great man. How did we get there? This is very problematic. Yes, it's great to have children. All children are blessings. But I'm not sure if you're in a situation where 16 children is a very good situation for them. So I'm just making an example of something that we have normalized and that we even look up to. If a man comes into this room and say, how many children do you have? No, I have 1, I have 2. And he say, I have 16. There's something that happens with us. 16 children. Hey. You must be rich. You must be having 15 businesses. You must be a great man. We're not even asking, do you know the name of your children? Do you remember their birthday? Do you do something for them? When they come, do they actually look at you with love or disdain? We don't even ask those questions. So we have normalized the man who's not responsible. And for me, you're asking, what do we do to glue the man together? So across the African continent and also in the African diaspora, before this has become more and more dismantled, we have initiation practices. And I don't want you to just go immediately to the stereotypical picture of what has happened in some initiation schools, especially in this part of the continent, where men have been butchered, where men have lost their lives, where men have learned very problematic things during the time of initiation. We used to have an initiation practice that reminded you of your responsibility as a man. And that is something we can, if we really want to, because the practice in part of the continent and part of this country has eroded. And where it exists, part of that has also become very problematic. Because many of the values that are really poisonous and destructive are also sieved into these places that are supposed to be pure and sacred. We can still clean that house if we want to. I'm not sure if we do. Because we keep saying that, no, what happens at the mountain must stay at the mountain, as if to say we must never interrogate, we must never ask questions. It doesn't have to, we can have that conversation without having it on a first page view on a newspaper. We don't have to invite CNN to have that conversation. We can find sacred ways of having conversations that is not for everyone and still keep it sacred and keep it to the highest value. But I'm not sure if we really want to, because we also put in place a certain male ego that doesn't allow us to go be. So, for instance, if I'm an Xhosa man, if I'm a Zulu man, to be asked, "What are you sure you're a real man?" And now my ego is going to speak. Who are you to ask me this question? Do you know that I'm a Zulu man? Do you know that you cannot talk to me like that? Instead of creating spaces where because this is the leadership we came from, where my leadership would be questioned. And where there would be a council around me that if I happen to be the leader, I better answer. And if I can't answer, there will be a circle of women who will take me down and say, we can no longer trust you. You are no longer living by the values of this community. You have offended us. We are ashamed of you, and you are no longer going to be our leader. This thing of thinking that we can just be leaders and just know because we are men is completely false information. So for me, initiation.
We got to get together. We got to meet. We got to spend time. We've got to learn from each other. But we've also got to listen to what women think.
Yeah.
So there's a guest in the studio. She's the only one who is of the feminine gender. We've been talking about men's issues, and we need to hear from her to help sterilize, or I don't even know if the word is sterilize.
No, not sterilize. Or
balance. Or just to bring balance. Excellent word. To bring balance to what we're doing. So Tenji, please. How do you feel?
I feel very disappointed with men. And what's even more disappointing is that I don't see it changing. Meaning, when we grew up, for instance, if you are from a certain province, we all know that our fathers or grandfathers, they came to either Durban or Johannesburg for a place of work. and the women they stay behind. The fathers come, they come here, they make families, they have another family, they go back home, and it feels like that goes down and that goes down and that goes down. And although they were at a point where there were those children that don't get to see their fathers, that will long to have a certain relationship with their fathers. Our brothers, our husbands, our partners at this day and age, they tend to say, but women of today, you have a lot of opinion. If we are trying to have a conversation to say, okay, we're here now, things are different now, meaning myself as Thenjiswa, I now have this opportunity to be the neck to you by also bringing some financial, stability within the family. But if you start to question things and have expectations to say A, B, C, D, then we get told our mothers never question that. Our mothers could tolerate that. We as women are weak. We as women drink more beer and wine than their fathers or them. But have men ever actually sat and had that conversation within themselves? Why are we in a situation where now women drink more, where women, are challenging these things? As a mother of boys, I often worry because instead of trying to do it better with with generations that come before us, I think things get worse because now the focus is on grooming women, equal opportunities for women. We are busy grooming this woman. But what are we doing about our young boys as fathers? The fathers are not present. I worry about my children. And I'm like, who is going to marry my son? Is my son going to be good enough for that daughter that we are busy grooming, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we must not have equal opportunities. I'd love to have those opportunities, but my question is, as we build these women, how do we then balance the two? Because our boys now are falling behind, and we'll find ourselves in the situation where you're trying to balance. But as men, I feel they say they want to change. They say they're on our side. They say they understand things need to change, but they are quick to quote how things were done previously. And if we are questioning each other, how are we then going to solve these things? In order for our African black men to be better, I need to be there as a African black woman. But I cannot be able to offer that help if you as a man are not allowing me to help. Like Baba was saying, Dr. Buntu, that men don't cry, men don't talk. And me as a woman next to you as my husband, for example, if I want to understand certain things, because maybe I have a better perspective about how we can resolve matters of the family, it's now going back to, but my mother never used to ask my father this. I'm the man of the house. What to you, when you guys see, what defines the man of the house? When you say you are providing, what are you providing? Are you providing financially? Okay, great. What else are you providing? That's all for now.
It's back to ego, man. It's like, thank you, Thenjiswa. It's back to ego. We reset back to ego in a scary way. And we're going to continue the conversations in this room around masculinity. I want to talk about isolation. This guy isolates himself. When he's not feeling strong, he isolates himself. He goes and runs away. And I've done that. I've isolated myself, so I know what he's doing. And I pick up from Thenjiswa by saying, she's disappointed, I'm done. Right? And that's my viewpoint. Doesn't mean it can't change. I'm being honest. I'm done. I cannot figure out, with everything that he has, and he is in the room with us, why he needs to run anywhere. There's mentorship, there's love, there's food, there's work, there's space, there's role models. Why do you need to run? Okay. I'm not going to ask you to answer.
I want to say something. Because, and I'm not saying it happened exactly that way, but I want to go back to what you said. You have also run away. You have also isolated yourself. And younger men also see that this man now, he lost his job, he lost his investments, he did this, but I never heard the story. I just caught a glimpse of that line, but I never saw him falling apart. I was never listening to him saying, I feel so useless. I don't know how this happened. I should have been so much. I've never heard the man say those things. So probably I should also not say those things. And if I'm hit by my own sense of defeat, the only place I probably should go is to go away, because I also see this in a lot of men who come to me and say that, Baba, I wish that you didn't see me now. I have always wanted to come back to you and say, you know what? I've started my business. I'm now married. I have 300 children. Like, I want to just boast to you because you gave me something that I really value. And now I'm coming back and say I'm still in the dark space. I don't want to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the dynamic here as well, because I know you have played and you continue to play a very significant role in Toby's life. But he probably also doesn't want to come back to you and say, maybe for the 5th time, that something went wrong, or a relationship didn't work, or he did something that he knows you want to say, but why did you do that? He wants to come back when he can say that I've solved it. So we are also teaching younger men, if we don't role model, what does a broken man look like? What is a way to speak about your brokenness that a young man can learn that, you know what? I'm going to choose that.
I'll take it for now. For the purposes of where we are, what is the importance of us getting together as men, having our own retreats, and why should we be encouraged to do that now more than ever?
So I want to speak about men's retreat from the point of view that that's probably awkward. That's probably only for those who are too weak to even utter their own challenges. It's probably for men who that is the last choice or decision you should make. And I want to challenge that and say it should be the first. Because don't wait until you are completely overwhelmed by problems, because then you're not in a good state to seek any form of help. And if you have not been in a space, and I think I want to channel my comments specifically to those who have never been in a circle of men, and when they think about being in a circle of men, all they think about is judgment, is being laughed at, and being called names or called out for not really being a man. I can say this after having worked intentionally with men. I've worked with men for more than 30 years, but intentionally meaning creating methodologies around this, working from very curated and designed spaces for a variety of men from very different walks of life, from the richest to the poorest. I know the power that sits in a conversation when men are open with each other. And you will be surprised. It works every time. But it also works because you are guided by men who establish a certain culture in that retreat. When I say culture, I mean certain values. So for instance, we have ground rules. You don't laugh. You don't giggle. You don't mock somebody who's saying something that is a bit shocking to you. You rather say what is on your mind. I didn't expect that. I wasn't aware that some people do that. Can you explain more? Take an interest in what is unfamiliar to you. When that is established, my experience, and I don't know, it's so important for me that you get this, especially if you are skeptical. We've been doing this for more than 15 years in a very intentional way. It works every time. And even the man in the room who has told himself that, yeah, I'm going to sit here and listen to this, man, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not comfortable. That people are not ready for my story. When it comes to them, they hold the floor for half an hour to the point that we say, Sipho, thank you so much for sharing, but we need to also have room for others. And even if you don't see yourself doing that, I can promise you that a space when it actually feels safe, and I think the reason we are skeptical to spaces like this is that as men, most of us have never really felt that I can sit with more than one man in a room and actually be listened to and validated and held. And there's something extremely powerful when other men take an interest in finding solutions to your problem. Remember that when you are 35, 40, 50, whatever age you are, you have a lot of experience of being a man. And it's in that moment you realize that I can actually give some advice here. I've been through that. I recognize that problem. I can actually tell you what I did or what you shouldn't do. And so what we do, we facilitate a interactive conversation. We zone in on particular challenges that come up. We might have a theme that we're working from, or it's just an open session. We invite men, and increasingly, I want to invite men who sit in responsible leadership, who are leading businesses, who are in corporations, who are in spaces that we all aspire to. Because, and I'm going to just use the story that kind of came to the fore just a few minutes ago. An older man runs away from his problems, has his own reasons for that, but it also inspires a younger man to run away from his problems. And we need men in responsible positions to demonstrate what is it to find a way to work on your breaking, to find a way to work on your discomfort, to find a way to work on your shame, the things you've done to your partner that you wish you didn't, the awkward relationship between you and your children, the awkward relationship you have with yourself. There is absolute open environment to listen and to understand and to counsel every man, whatever walk of life you come from, whatever your journey, whatever your problem is. This is the space where we as facilitators, we guide the journey, so we make sure that the safe is space and meaningful. And when men buy into that and come to be part of that, you will find a sense of healing and power that you may never have felt. And that's not just for a moment of feeling good. You will also be given tools, because even if you feel good in that moment after a couple of days together, you're going back to a reality where many of the triggers are still going to be there, and you may relapse and you may go back and you may feel like you still want to run away. But now we're giving you tools. Now there's a handbook that you can go back to. Now there's some notes that you took while you were at the retreat. Now there's memories from how other men told their stories. And you cannot say that I'm without any solution. I don't know what to do. You have a number of solutions that you can choose. So it's more of an encouragement to be in a space of finding solutions and enacting the solutions, even when you're not sure if it's really going to produce the results you want. We know from experience, and we will verify and accentuate and give you the courage to know that you doing this work is for more than even for you. Yes, let's deal with you first, but this is your gift to your family. This is your gift to your children. This is your gift to everyone who loves you but don't know how. So do it for you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being invited. Ashe.
See you again soon, man.
Absolutely.
Many lives to change, more work to be done.
So much.
And more conversations to be had, and more retreats.
More retreats. More retreats. We need to get into spaces that are designed for our healing and empowerment.
Ashe.
Ashe.